Hello and welcome to another video. This is the final video in my 2020 holiday season series. Of course, part of the reason for these videos is that the Christmas markets and other holiday festivities are closed here in Germany, and consequently we kind of have to make our own festivities ourselves. So I'm pulling out a bunch of recipes for creating joy over the holidays and seeing what we can do about all of that. This video I plan to release on January 30th. But we're going to make baked apples, and I'm going to pull out a lot of different tricks I've learned in different cuisines, and you'll get a completely original baked apple recipe from me. This is a delicious dish. There are varieties of it in just about everywhere in Europe and the US where I've lived, and so this is my contribution to the whole genre. Now for ingredients. I'm going to start with 2 apples here. These are softer apples. This variety is called elstar, and they're very good for cooking. They are fairly sweet, but also just a little bit sour. I have about a teaspoon of sugar for each apple. This will have about 2 teaspoons of sugar, maybe a tablespoon max. I have just a few almonds for each. I have some dried cranberries, and maybe 2 teaspoons or so of butter for each apple. Over here, I have a pod of cardamom. You can use dried cardamom just as well. I've taken the ones I'm actually going to use, I took out of another pod, and they're right here. And then finally, I'm actually going to crush them with this rock here. And then finally, I have a apple corer here, which I will use to core the apples. It's very difficult to make a good baked apple without an apple corer, so if you're going to do baked apples, definitely get one of these. So the first thing I'm going to do is, since I have this nice rock here, I'm actually going to crack the cardamom seeds. You can do this in a mortar and pestle if you're working with whole cardamom. And I like to work with just cracked cardamom in this way. As I say, I have this nice piece of limestone with a nice flat side on it. That works really well for these sorts of things. But you could also use like a pepper grinder or mortar and pestle or whatever you like. I'm going to take this and I'm now going to pour it into this mixture in here. And then I'm going to finely chop together these almonds and these cranberries. And you can use either roasted or raw almonds. I prefer the raw ones, but it's up to you. So now I'm going to go ahead and chop these almonds and these cranberries together. And I'll come back when they're nice and finely chopped, and then we'll mix all these together. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start stirring together the cardamom and the sugar just a little bit. And with a fork, I'm going to work the sugar and the butter together until these are basically just kind of one mass, and I don't have any separate sugar. Now, you could probably use brown sugar if you maybe are not using the cardamom, or even if you are. But I like the white sugar here with the cranberries, so maybe if you're using brown sugar, stick with raisins. So you can see here we now have just kind of a mass of butter, sugar, and cardamom, and into that I'm going to work my chopped nuts and fruit. And eventually I'm going to get just kind of a big clumpy mass. And this is what's going to go inside the apples while I bake them. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and mix this now with my fingers. And eventually you're going to see it kind of gets a little bit crumbly, but it is is still kind of sticking together with the butter and the sugar. So here we have it. And now we're going to core the apple. If you take a look at the apple, it's pretty much a straight vertical shot down. So I'm going to take the apple core and I'm going to twist it as I push it all down through the apple. And if we make a little mistake here, we can fix it. But the key thing is I need to get straight through. And you can see I did a pretty good job of it here. So here we have an apple core. And the next thing I'm going to show you is we want to take a little plug out of the top so that we have something to stop the bottom. Now you'll note I have a little bit of a seed cavity in there. So I'm just going to take my, just going to take the fork and dig out the seed. You can also use a dessert spoon. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it right here to make a, so I've cut this core right here so that I have a little bit of a plug. And I'm just going to cut a little more off of it here. And I pull the stem off. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to completely cover everything. But if it's just pretty much most of the way there, it gives us something to kind of plug into the bottom of this. Similarly, if we want to, we can just simply cut a little piece off the bottom here. And this is fine also. I'm just going to set this in here. And from here, I'm going to set this. So I just cut this little bottom piece off here. I'm going to set this in here. And I'm going to set this on the baking sheet. I'm going to then do this with this apple. And I'll be back as soon as I'm done. So now I have the two apples on a baking sheet with baking paper underneath them. And I'm just stuffing them with this cranberry almond cardamom filling. I'm going to do the same with both. And you'll see this is just about the right amount to fully plug up both of the two apples. And then I'm going to put them in the oven at 150 Celsius. That's like 300, 350 Fahrenheit. Maybe 325 Fahrenheit. And let the filling melt and let the apples soften. So these have now been in at 25 or 30 minutes at 150 Celsius. You can see they started to collapse a little bit. The colors change, they're not super firm anymore. This is the way I like them, but if you like them more soft, you can keep them in for longer or at a slightly higher temperature. Note that at half an hour at 200, these will completely turn to mush. So, you know, play around, see what you like. From here, you could dust them with a little bit of cinnamon. You could put ice cream with them. You could also take them with, say, a little bit of calvados or something. I have this Papadou calvados. And so basically I'm just going to pour a small amount into the center of it here. That'll be plenty. The nice thing about doing it this way is that the calvados will form a little bit of a, the apple brandy flavor will mix with the rest of this and we will get something that is even more intense. So now I'm going to go ahead and taste it this way. And now for the taste test. We have this apple with the filling, a little bit of calvados. The cardamom on this is just delicious. A lot of people associate with apples with cinnamon, but adding the cardamom here is really, really, really good. This is a delicious dessert, quite festive. Hope you enjoy it. See you next week.